Welcome to Studio 5. We're going behind the scenes of the film Praise This, taking a look back at an Italian journey with Andrea Bocelli. And then we're looking ahead to a new film from Angel Studios. It's called Sound of Freedom. With so much to get to, this is a great time to fire up this week's countdown of the top 5 stories in uplifting entertainment.
At number 5, a Studio 5 first look at Flamin' Hot from director Eva Longoria and producer Devon Franklin, following its premiere at South by Southwest.
Burns good or burns bad?
It burns good.
Oh! Oh, we did it! Yeah!
I think I heard you say this Flamin' Hot is the most inspiring film for you.
Yes.
Since...
I mean, I was involved with Pursuit of Happiness
I know.
when I was an executive,
Yes.
you know, because we talked. I was an executive at Sony Pictures. And that movie, being able to be a part of that film and that experience was life-changing. And this is the first film since then that I've been a part of where I feel the same way. Where you have a real story of a real person who has a dream, who never gives up on that dream, and then sees that dream come to life. And when you see the story of Richard Montañez, who is the driving force behind what we know as Flaming Hot Cheetos, and you see the story of he and his wife and his family and what they had to endure in order to become who they are. The movie, I mean, we've screened it all across the country, and people, all races, all ages, they cry, they laugh. It's just one of those films that I think people are really going to be surprised by and really inspired by.
It streams to Hulu and Disney in June. At number 4.
2 major Christian films are showing their strength at the box office. The new film, His Only Son, about the biblical story of Abraham offering to sacrifice his son Isaac in obedience to God, has brought in more than $10.5 million in just a week and a half. The movie was released by Angel Studios, which also produces The Chosen. And Jesus Revolution, about the Jesus movement revival that began on the West Coast in the late 1960s, has made nearly $52 million in its second month at the box office. Both movies have gotten extremely positive reviews from their audiences. And we'll return to the countdown in just a little bit. Right now, we turn to producer and filmmaker Will Packer and director Tina Gordon for a look inside Praise This. It's the story of young worshipers in Atlanta taking a stab at a musical competition.
What are we gonna do?
I've been praying all night. God gonna come through.
Where was this story born for you? Where did this come from?
I just finished Little with Will Packer, and he sent me a script, and he said he was interested in going into the faith-based world of praise teams.
So this is our church.
I am starting to feel the spirit.
Hey everyone, this is my cousin sister Sam. She's from LA staying with me now.
Nice to meet you.
I'm Melissa, captain of the praise team.
I had been circling doing something music-driven since Drumline, and I just could not find the right thing that I kind of wanted to delve into. I read this, I was in.
Every team has their lane, and our lane is real church music. How about you learn an actual gospel song first?
Will, why praise teams? Why gospel?
You know, I think that it's a world that exists. I always like things that are steeped in authenticity. And so it is a world that is real, is relevant to folks that know it. But I wanted to supercharge it.
I changed the music.
What?
It's gonna be great.
We are terrified.
That's why praise teams, because they exist as an authentic world of these choirs that oftentimes do very elaborate productions. But that's what it's all about. Getting people in by saying, listen, come for the gospel Drake Beyonce mashup, and then stay for a story about faith and spirituality.
Oh, I like this. Twerking for the Lord.
Let's talk about the cast real quick. You have Miss Bailey, you've got Jacqueline Carr, just some amazing people. How do you feel about that, and how did it happen?
Oh, Chloe Bailey was my first choice. I think overall the casting, the intention is to be surprising. So we have Chloe, who positions herself in the culture as edgy, bold, confident. Privately, she's quiet. She's very just sweet, thoughtful person. So I loved that duality about Chloe. And I surrounded her with people that you, in the faith-based world, that you would not think would be playing these characters. Like Jacqueline Carr plays Kiki, a girl who stays up in the club, but gets up in the morning to go to church. And Corinne Hawthorne, I mean, I kept trying to read her for like the gospel singers in the movie that are the good girls. And she was like, please let me try to read for the villain, basically, you know, Fallon. So I think it was exciting for the people from the faith-based community to play against type, and surprisingly seeing Chloe in the lead.
Hey, baby. Oh my gosh, I've always wanted a sister.
And then you add in people like Quavo, right? And Drewski. So these are folks that you definitely don't think of when you think of a faith-based praise team movie, but they add an element that's amazing. And to me, that's the magic of the movie. It's having an ensemble and everybody does something different very well.
So y'all really think God's gonna waste a miracle on y'all this year, huh?
Child, I heard that clap back all the way over here. Let's get our praise on.
Come on. Hey! All right now.
Praise This is an original film streaming now on NBC's Peacock platform. Still ahead.
I decided to make this journey now because nature is the biggest miracle.
A miraculous journey through Italy with Andrea Bocelli and friends. Torrin Wells takes us inside. At number 3, a bit of animation history is made at the box office.
We will destroy the Mushroom Kingdom!
The Super Mario Brothers movie has posted the biggest global opening in history for an animated film, surpassing Frozen 2 with $377 million since Wednesday.
Here we go!
$204.6 million of that is domestic earnings, nearly $80 million more than it was expected to make.
At number 2,
Big George Foreman, the miraculous story of the once and future heavyweight champion of the world.
a Studio 5 first look at the life of George Foreman in film.
You live one way your whole life.
Heavenly Father, thank you for this food.
George should change his name from Foreman to Poor Man.
To hurt.
What's my name now, fool?
Foreman is the new heavyweight champion of the world.
From what you've seen, what do you think of the film first of all?
Well, I'm just happy that my story, as much as they could be in a movie. Because long after I'm gone, it'll still be talked about. Someone will go to the library and find out about George Foreman, and the great part of it was about him meeting Jesus Christ. I mean, that made me happy. Looking at the other part of the movie was just, you know, entertainment for me.
Big George Foreman is in theaters at the end of this month.
Let's thank God for the food, y'all.
How about the food, mama?
George Foreman ain't no new champ. He is the new chump. We gonna get it on because we don't get along.
World-class musical performances, intimate conversations, all along an awe-inspiring Italian countryside. That's the heart of The Journey, a musical special from Andrea Bocelli we saw in theaters for a limited run. One of the guests was Torrin Wells, who took a moment to share the experience with us inside Studio 5.
One day I'll hear the laugh of children in a world.
Torrin, it's always a joy to talk to you. First, let's begin with this. Describe getting the invitation from Andrea Bocelli to be in Italy. What was that like?
It was unbelievable. I really didn't even have any concept that this would be an actual reality, but my yes was automatic.
Our life is very short, but at the same time, it's a miracle.
It's a stunning film.
Yeah, indeed it is. So you are a Texas boy and you had never ridden a horse?
Well, I grew up in Michigan, which explains a lot. But not only did I have to ride the horse, I also had to sing a song while riding the horse. So it was no small feat, for sure.
I think of all those that they asked, you were the only one tasked with having to ride and sing at the same
Apparently. Well, I was the only one who made it in the movie singing on the horse, so I don't know what that says.
True, very true. Andrea described you as a keeper of light. What was it like to hear that as far as your testimony goes?
I thought that was such a beautiful way to describe a believer. And really, we're all keepers of the light. The light consists of goodness, righteousness, and truth.
You sing a few songs, and I'm going to try to hold it together while I ask you about this one, because I can't even listen to this song without crying, and I listen to it often, and that is Until Grace. And I heard you talk about, in terms of writing this song, you thinking that you would live a cycle of brokenness. Can you talk more about that and how you arrived at Until Grace?
Yeah, I think that it's true for all of us. It's definitely true for me. There are some things that enter your life at one point or another, and somehow some of those negative attributes, characteristics, ways of thinking become so connected to your identity that you now define yourself by what you've struggled with. And the amazing thing with the life lived with Jesus is that he tells us who we are. I thought that I was going to be bound by dysfunctional habits and sin for my entire life until grace. And when grace entered my life, the work of grace has undone all of that and has redeemed me in a beautiful way.
And you also sing You'll Never Walk Alone with you, Andrea and Taya. Where were you guys singing that, and what do you remember most about that part of the journey?
We were at an old church there, and just beautiful. We rode into the city on horseback, and people were along the sides of the streets yelling, Andrea, Andrea. You know, it was amazing. It was literally a movie, and had some really meaningful conversations there. And just to be a part of such a historic, legendary artist on this journey that in itself is historic and legendary was just a dream. And to see the whole thing finished, it is a work of art. How they captured the landscape, the cinematography, all of the pieces, the performances, the conversations. It is a rich, rich project.
I decided to make this journey now because nature is the biggest miracle.
My prayer is that it encourages people on their own journeys because, you know, obviously we're not all on horseback, thank God, but we are all on a journey. And the beautiful thing about it is that we're not on the journey alone, that Jesus is walking with us hand in hand. All we have to do is follow. And no matter how treacherous the path, no matter how difficult, how high the hills, how low the valleys, that he's going to be there with us through it all. And that he's going to see it through. He's going to see us through, and we're going to make it. We have the promise of heaven as our great reward, and his grace is going to carry us to that day.
People have called the time that we're living in right now the age of fear. And so what better weapon to keep our hearts fixed on the peace of God than music?
And be sure to keep an eye and ear to our Studio 5 platforms to see where and when you'll be able to enjoy more of the journey. And speaking of journey, it's time for our weekly Journey in Pictures. Here's a look at this week's Studio 5 Snapshot.
The groundbreaking novel, Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret, is now a feature film, being screened in Los Angeles and New York City before its nationwide release at the end of this month. This Judy Blume story has touched generations. It's a timeless coming-of-age story with insightful humor and candid exploration of life's biggest questions. And it's this week's Studio 5 Snapshot. Coming up next.
I don't think I can do this job, Tim. As soon as I lay down, I only see those kids' faces.
A Studio 5 first look at Angel Studios' newest project, Sound of Freedom.
Hey there, welcome back to Studio 5. We are returning with an incredible story that's now a movie. A former U.S. government agent quits his job with one motive, devoting his life to rescuing children from global sex traffickers. The film is called Sound of Freedom. From what I've seen so far of this project, it seems extremely emotional and powerful. How did you come to it?
Well, I met Tim Ballard 8 years ago in Los Angeles, California. And I met him and his team, ex-Navy SEALs, ex-federal agents who travel around the world undercover, rescuing children that are kidnapped for sexual exploitation.
I don't think I can do this job, Tim. As soon as I lay down, I only see those kids' faces.
And I remember, like, if it was yesterday when he told me, I know that it's very sad, Eduardo, what I'm telling you, what we are telling you, but it's more sad now that you know if you do nothing. I knew at the time that I had to stop everything that I was doing, and I knew that a new mission, a new vision, born right there.
It is the fastest growing international crime network that the world has ever seen. It has already passed the illegal arms trade, and soon it's going to pass the drug trade.
I made a promise to God that I will dedicate my entire life to work really hard, along with Tim and everyone else that is working around the world to end child trafficking.
Señor Timoteo, tú rescatas niños, ¿verdad? Quizá puedas ayudarme a encontrar a mi hermana.
So I told Tim, you know, I want to do a lot of things. Of course, I want to work really hard with you. So why don't we make a movie about your life, and that movie can become a movement.
Imagine walking into a room right now, seeing an empty bed. What will we do?
Shivering stars drift around in the sky.
We're Homeland Security. You know we can't go off rescuing kids in Colombia.
I like all
This job tears you to pieces. This is my one chance to put those pieces back together.
He said, I'm not the solution for this. I mean, I am the solution for one child. I mean, you save one child and you save the world.
We're talking about extracting an 11-year-old girl from an army of rebels.
Not just her. I'm talking about rescuing hundreds of kids.
We're talking about millions of children.
Yeah.
We need a movement. It's everyone coming together, but how can we start the movement? Well, I think the movie can be the beginning of that. What is so powerful about movie making is that you have this tool, powerful instrument to raise awareness, which is the first step. You need to see that there is a problem out there. So you see it, now it goes to your heart, then your feet moves.
Over 2 million children a year are being sucked into the deepest recesses of hell. If we do nothing, someday it's gonna reach the likes of you.
I pray that millions of people will see this movie and millions of people will walk out of the theaters, not only entertained, but I hope as a filmmaker they will leave full of hope that they can become the heroes that this world needs, so we can end child trafficking, so we can rescue the children, so we can free the children, so we can end this forever. I believe we can do this. I believe we can do this.
What if this was your daughter?
Sound of Freedom is coming to a theater near you a little later this year, and we will be sure to keep you posted. We have now made it to our final story in this week's uplifting entertainment countdown. Here is the #1 headline to watch.
At number 1.
Sam is leaving LA to go to Atlanta with her family.
I've always wanted a sister.
But we're cousins, Jess.
Cousins, sisters, it's the South. It doesn't even matter.
A behind-the-scenes look at the film praised this.
It's an unexpected faith-based film. It's not what you think. It is for those that have always been in the church world and for those that have never been in the church world. That makes it refreshing and fun.
Streaming now on Peacock.
It's a story about a young woman trying to find her voice, trying to find her faith, and get in touch with her spirituality, which she feels like she's lost. How do we tell a story about the competitive world of praise teams that would be interesting and appealing to people who know nothing about praise teams? To people who don't go to church, right? Who don't have like a strong faith or a relationship with God. How do we tell a story that would engage them? Music is the entry point.
I know the Lord can see my potential. I've been working. I told him it's been up since I met you. Pull the curtain.
Welcome back to Studio 5. Music drives this production every week, and this week's soundtrack comes to us from Jonathan McReynolds and Pastor Marvin Winans. Take a listen, and you'll hear why Abel is what's playing in my ear. Winans and McReynolds sound good together. On that musical note, we are just about out of time for this edition of Studio 5. So let's take a moment and look ahead to next week.
Snapshots from a fictional tale of a soldier who returns to Afghanistan to rescue his interpreter.
Like any great action movie, at the heart of it is a real relationship. And I think in the end, you will be moved.
The cast and creators of The Covenant take us inside the heart of the film.
This movie goes beyond the uniform into the unspoken relationship between two human beings. You think I have a choice? There is no choice.
Certainly pray you'll join us for that story and so much more come next week. Before we say goodbye today, we've got time for just one more thing, and that is a final word. We're giving that to a special friend of Studio 5, Torrin Wells.
All that you do, if you could go back today and speak to baby Torrin, young Torrin, what would you tell that little boy?
I would tell him that he is valuable, that God has a place for his gifts, and that the things that make you unique make you perfect for the purpose that God has called you to.
Torrin, thank you. That is a great final word for this edition of Studio 5 and this week's look at uplifting entertainment. Until next time, make time to uplift someone around you, and then come on back. See where Studio 5 takes you next week. Thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye, everybody.